Friday marks the centennial of the Great Kanto earthquake, an unprecedented disaster in Japan.
In a stark warning that the next big one may hit the congested capital, Tokyo, at any time, Japan observed the 100th anniversary of the most destructive earthquake to strike the country in modern times. Experts have also warned that the Japanese public is largely unprepared for another natural disaster that is absolutely unavoidable, despite the fact that the Great Kanto earthquake and the flames that ravaged Tokyo and Yokohama resulted in up to 142,000 fatalities. Seismologists estimate that during the next 30 years, there will be a 70% chance of another major quake under Tokyo's Kanto region and the other prefectures. Approximately 43.3 million people call Kanto home today, and it is the economic powerhouse of Japan. On the other hand, the earthquake and tsunami that rocked the northeastern region of the country in March 2011 killed almost 20,000 people dead and left a massive and expensive recovery project in its aftermath, despite the region being far less inhabited.
We know that's a big number. It was the fifth largest earthquake in history.
A powerful 7.9 magnitude earthquake strikes just before noon on September 1, 1923, upsetting a usual lunch hour in both the surrounding city of Yokohama and Tokyo, the capital city of Japan. Tens of thousands of people are killed as a result of the earthquake, which also causes the majority of the buildings in Yokohama and most of Tokyo's brick structures to collapse. It is estimated that more than 140,000 people died and 1.5 million were left homeless as a result of the Great Kanto earthquake, also known as the Tokyo-Yokohama earthquake, which struck in 1923. However, the exact numbers are not always consistent. Because people in 1923 cooked over open flames, and the earthquake occurred while they were cooking lunch, it is possible that the earthquake set off fires that burned several buildings. The typhoon that landed off the coast of the Noto Peninsula in northern Japan was responsible for the powerful winds that followed the hit, that fanned the flames and produced terrifying firestorms. Water mains were damaged by the earthquake, thus it took until September 3 to put out the fires, by which time around 45% of Tokyo had burned. Given that three major tectonic plates intersect beneath Tokyo, some academics theorized that the typhoon may have caused the earthquake by applying pressure to a fragile and stressed fault line. The shock also caused a tsunami, which was responsible for 60 fatalities and 155 home destructions in Atami in the Sagami Gulf. The tsunami's height was 39.5 feet. Some government officials called for transferring the Japanese capital to a different city since the earthquake damage in Tokyo was so bad. When visiting the wreckage of Tokyo in the fall of 1923, educator Mirato Saku came to the conclusion that the earthquake was a premonition of doom. He stated, "Disasters take away the falsehood and ostentation of human life and conspicuously expose the strengths and weaknesses of human society." Harunoki Ichi, a relief worker for Tenrikyo, claimed that the damage and destruction in the quake's aftermath surpassed imagination. Since most homes in Tokyo and Yokohama were still made of wood, many of the fatalities were due to fires that started in the crowded back streets of those cities. There are rumors of individuals getting their foot stuck in molten road pavement and being sucked into fiery vortexes. Nearly every building in Yokohama, which is south of Tokyo, collapsed as a result of the major quake, which lasted around 14 seconds, according to survivors. The Grand Hotel in Yokohama, which had previously housed notable guests like English author Rudyard Kipling and American President William Howard Taft, collapsed. The hotel's staff and visitors in their hundreds were crushed. Editor of the Trans-Pacific Journal Henry W. Kinney, who was headquartered in Tokyo, saw the destruction in Yokohama hours after the earthquake. According to Kinney, Yokohama, the city of almost 500,000 people, had become a vast plain of fire, of red, devouring sheets of flame that played and flickered. Here and there an unrecognizably constructed building remnant, with a few damaged walls, stood up like rocks above the area of flames. It appeared as though the earth itself was on fire. It resembled a huge Christmas pudding that the spirits were flaming over but weren't actually devouring. Because the city was gone. The anniversary of the earthquake on September 1 has been observed as Disaster Prevention Day in Japan since 1960. Emergency drills are also held in many private businesses and in schools all around the nation. Japan has had a number of disastrous earthquakes. Kobe was hit by an earthquake on January 17, 1995, more than 7 decades after the catastrophe of 1923. Estimated 6,400 people died as a result of the Kobe earthquake, which also led to numerous fires and a landslide in Nishinomiya. Then, on March 11, 2011, a 9.0 magnitude earthquake occurred off the coast of Sendai, Japan. A number of devastating tsunamis struck Japan as a result of the Tohoku earthquake and tsunami, resulting in an estimated 18,000 fatalities. However, many Japanese people continue to be oblivious to the threat they are in despite the disaster's size and stark reminder of the power that earthquakes may unleash. Just 12 years ago, a housewife from Yokohama named Takako Tomura is not afraid. We have some bottled water stored away, and I try to keep some tins of food and others that can keep for a long time, but then I am too busy to go to the shop, and I use some of the emergency stocks, she shared. What's more, our room isn't very big, so it's hard to keep a lot of emergency supplies on hand. Obviously, I hope we do not have a big earthquake, but if it happens, we will just have to manage the best we can. It is said that Japanese cities are much better prepared for a big natural disaster now than they were 100 years ago, by Yoshioki Hisada, an earthquake expert at Kogakuin University in Tokyo. For sure, a lot of lessons have been learned. Buildings are much safer because of seismic designs and building rules that make even very tall buildings safe, he told in a report. The problem is that there are still a lot of older buildings in very densely packed parts of the cities, where fires could easily spread and would be very difficult to extinguish. This month, the Tokyo Metropolitan Government said that it is stepping up its efforts to rebuild all parts of the city with wooden homes by the 2040s because it perceives the danger. 8,000 hectares of old housing in the city make it more likely that people will be hurt in a big natural disaster. A study released by the city last year said that a 7.3 magnitude earthquake right under the city could kill more than 6,000 people and damage or destroy 194,400 buildings. The most vulnerable places, according to Hisada, are in Arakawa ward, which has a lot of older homes and could flood during a tsunami. We need to prepare better countermeasures and educate people about the problems they might face, he told in a report. Experts say people who live in one of the world's most crowded cities need to know how to use a fire extinguisher and turn off gas lines. They should know basic first aid and what to do if they get stuck in a tall building and the elevator stops working or the doors won't open because of damage to the building. They should also make sure their homes have enough water and basic foods for the first few days after a disaster and be ready to help their neighborhoods get back on their feet. People have to be ready, and they will need to help each other, although I do not believe most have the experience or are sufficiently prepared for when an earthquake does happen, explained Hisada. They do not have enough food, and they do not know how to help someone who is hurt. It makes me nervous, he added. And so, the question is Japan ready for the next big one? A lot of people aren't ready for the next big one. Even though the 100th anniversary of the earthquake is getting a lot of attention, Hiromi Yuki, who works for a company in Tokyo, says she is still not ready. In truth, I have not made any preparations, she told in a report. My sister takes it all very seriously, and it worries me. Maybe I'm just lazy. There are special parts on the cabinets that keep them from falling on our parents if there is an earthquake, and she keeps telling them to be ready. My company has some precautions as well, and every year they give us the packages of freeze-dried food that they keep for emergencies just before it expires, and they buy new stocks, she stated. I know people are worried about the next big one, but I was not in Japan at that time, so maybe I am not so conscious of how bad things can be. As Al Gore says, nature is a powerful force, and earthquakes reminds us of its power and unpredictability. You can suggest topics you want to see next in the comments section below. Please subscribe to Weather Collapse if you want to know more, and be updated on the latest news about natural calamities or disasters happening all over the world, and don't forget to like today's video. We'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.